Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services, if we can please kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices, or please place them on silent. Thank you.
Ma'ayan Chayim, wellspring of life. We come together this afternoon sharing our sorrow to commemorate the life of Norma Ehrlich. We recall the blessing of her life. We thank God for all that was good and true in her life, and for the precious memories which shall endure. Eternal God, Creator, her family and friends are bowed in grief. They seek light to dispel the dark gloom that threatens to overwhelm them. Be gracious to those who mourn, for they are in distress. Bless them with your compassion. Ease their burden of sorrow. Send them light and peace. For it is written, "Fear not, as I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I'll sustain you with my power." And let us all say, Amen. You saw at the very beginning of our ceremony that we cut the ribbons for Norma's children, for Carol, Bill, and Judy. When you approach them later, you'll see that the ribbons are only cut partly, because it is the cloth at the top of the ribbon that represents life and connectedness and love. That is not torn. But the tear does represent a sense of loss, a sense of that which is missing, as well as being symbolic that the three of them are wearing the ribbons on their left-hand side, which is the tradition for wearing at the time of the death of a parent. Bad biology, good emotion. We thought the heart was on the left. And therefore, at the death of a parent, the ribbon would go on that side to support it. Every other relationship, the ribbon goes onto the right-hand side. So there is a code when you see them, and you'll approach them and understand what is going on. I also want to acknowledge grandchildren that Norma and Bernard have. It's Jesse, Jennifer, Chris, and Ashley. A couple of you I met. Are there other of the two grandchildren met? Are the others here at the moment, physically? So the others are with us emotionally. I do know that this service is also being streamed. So I offer my consolations to you present and to those who are watching us online. And there's also a great granddaughter, Penelope. Your task will be to speak about Norma to her, to share the stories so that she knows about younger years, and she too can repeat all that was important to your family history. So we acknowledge her presence as well. I also want to identify three close friends. There's Flossie, and Ida, and Sheila. Ida I know well. Her daughter is a member of my congregation in Marlton. So I was glad to see her with your friends that are here. I also understand the friendship that you shared with Norma. While I was preparing and sitting outside, I was watching a lovely, lovely collage. Who put that together? Was it the person who's here who put the collage together? Yes? Great job. And I loved the soundtrack. I was listening to Nat King Cole sing Unforgettable. I was looking at these wonderful pictures of travel and black and white of years ago. but a shared, vibrant life that was so important to see. I appreciated contacting her life through those pictures. So thank you for putting it together. I'm sure others of you had a chance to see a similar close-up television in the lobby, and I recommend it highly. These were uplifting pictures. Not everyone does it. It takes special effort and love, but is, in fact, deeply appreciated. I realize that with this virus, you also suffered the loss of her husband Bernard in December, and at the time we're only able to have the service online. We're a little bit better. We're still masked when we're close together. Only at some point, hopefully in the future, we will regain a sense of normality of what once was, and we'll be able to have you kiss and hug and connect with all of your emotions. The same emotions that I understood from Carol, that she and Bernard, married for 61 years, appreciated, they adored each other. They spent their time building their lives together. And I know that you referred to her, and others will agree, that she was a real spitfire. You know, I'm seeing a lot of shaking heads here. I appreciated also that she thrived independently until the day she died. I don't know if that scared you or not. But that shows a certain drive, pardon the pun, as well as a sense of being who she was and wanting to live her life on her standards. She also spent time involved at the Cats JCC, where I tend to hang out as well. And any potential donations in her memory will be welcome to the Cats JCC in Cherry Hill as well. On her behalf, I offer the prayer of the Psalm 23, an excerpt in Hebrew and an English interpretation. Mizmor David, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, v'lo desha yarbitzeni, al mei meluchot yanachaleni. Nafshi yeshovev, yancheni magle tzedek l'ma'an shemo. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He has me lie down in green pastures. God leads me beside the still waters, guides me on paths of righteousness. God revives my soul for the sake of God's glory. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod do comfort me. You set the table in sight of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall abide in the house of the Lord forever. As you connected with each other before the sermon, I could hear the intensity of how you connected. There was some joyfulness, even at this moment of sadness. And that's the full spectrum of what emotions are in our lives. I'm offering a prayer now from the book of Ecclesiastes that speaks about the full spectrum of life. Beginnings and these conclusions that brings a sense of strength and reality. I'll read in translation. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to uproot what is planted. A time to tear down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to grieve, and a time to dance. A time to throw stones, and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to discard. A time to tear, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. Indeed, this is a time to share some thoughts. I'm honored to call first on Jennifer.
I'll get there. My grandmother loved with her whole heart. I loved watching her listen to Frank Sinatra. She would smile big and close her eyes and just breathe them in. She loved chocolate-covered cherries and wine, but who doesn't? She loved to garden. She had the most beautiful flowers when she had the space for it. She would try to give me gardening advice and knew me well enough to only recommend plants that are virtually unkillable. She loved her family so much. When I'd go over to my grandparents' house as a kid, she'd have movies she thought we'd like, so we could watch them together, and that's where I fell in love with Anne of Green Gables and Pippi Longstocking. She'd have snacks and crafts ready to go. Jiffy Pop and Trinky Dinks were the favorites. On my birthday every year, I get to plan the special day we'd spend together, which was usually the mall, because I'm a Jersey girl. As I got older, I'd get newspaper clippings in the mail every now and then of things she'd seen and she thought I'd be interested in, and I knew she was thinking about me. And she'd call when she had a good book or TV show recommendation. I would give her recommendations too. If she didn't like my recommendation, she would just say over and over again, "Oh, so you liked that? The book that I recommended to her, you liked that?" If she did like my recommendation, she'd recommend it back to me a few months later and tell me that June had told her about it. My grandfather was always there too, staying pretty quiet in the background, unless he had a piece of advice to give you, which he'd give to you very loudly to make sure you heard it. Or unless he had something to fix. He loved fixing things, and he'd get his kid out. All my life, my grandparents have been a solid presence in my life. They've been a pair, rarely getting one without the other. So it's fitting that they're together now, and that's why I'll remember them.
Thank you, Jennifer. And now call on Jesse.
Norma, my grandma's passing came to a surprise to everyone here, I think. She may have been 90, but she didn't look a day over 60. But Norma was full of surprises, like when I found out she was reading the entire 50 Shades of Grey series. She's what my mom would call a pip. To me, she was like a real-life Lucille Ball. I loved when she would missay a name or swap out details, and my grandfather would crack up and say, "Ha, I love this woman." It was such a privilege seeing their love as I was growing up. They had something very special, and my grandma got to experience it most of her life. She always looked like $1,000,000. It didn't matter if she got her sweater on discount or if she painted her own nails. She made everything look good and expensive. People who met her would think she was such a classy lady, and she was. I loved the meticulous way she applied her lipstick and how she had no fear of wearing white, something I did not inherit. As a grandmother, she could not have played the role more perfectly. Oreos before bed, attending every single event, graduation, play, chicken soup I crave every winter, saying yes when my mom said no. Moments with my grandparents growing up were idyllic. Driving through the neighborhood looking at Christmas lights, going to a museum to see a new exhibit on famous dresses, and holidays that included everyone and felt magical. I didn't grow up religious, but they connected me to my Jewish roots, making me want to know more, go to a birthright trip to Israel, and marry a nice Jewish boy. More than anything, my grandma made me feel loved, adored, and supported. It was a love you don't have to question, the kind that's rare in life and you only experience with a few people. It was unconditional, and you could feel it no matter how far away you were. Your wins were her wins, and when they didn't go your way, she was there to tell you, que sera, sera. Whatever will be. And eventually things will turn around. I will miss her hugs and how she lit up when I walked in the room, and her saying my bobola. She always made the moment about us when her grandkids were with her. What were we up to? She wanted all the details. She'd give everything she had, the last cookie, the sweater she was wearing, and she had a gift for gab and was a total social butterfly even at 90. She wanted to know the hot gossip and be involved. She made friends wherever she went and could talk to anyone, which is where my mom gets it. She knew how to have fun and make people feel good, and that's why she was always surrounded by people. She loved making plans, and even recently she could be hard to book because she had a busy schedule. I'm angry that she's going to miss so much. There were so many events and holidays I knew she would have loved. I was so excited to have her be a part of my baby's life as a great-grandmother, but que sera, sera, as she would say. We can't control our destinies, and we will all have to live without her, but our memories will be strong. I think I might start calling Home Depot, Home Depot, just so her misnomer lives on. And I also just need to thank my mother, who has been her constant rock over the last few years as things got more difficult in daily life. She was an hour away, but would drop everything to help her, or my grandfather, doctor's appointments, taking her to dinner, having small celebrations. She made sure she was busy doing and seeing and living. While so many of us weren't close by, you did everything, and I'm so grateful to you, and I know Grandma was grateful too.
Thank you, Jesse. Now I'm on her call on Judy.
Hello, everyone. I just can't. The girls, Jennifer, Jesse, beautifully done. Thank you, everybody, for coming. As my mother said, it's ridiculous. Carol, I cannot thank you enough for everything you've done for Mommy and Daddy. You were the rock, you were everything, you were most appreciated even when you thought you weren't, you were. We just thank you. And everybody for coming. Her friends, she loved more than anything to play cards with you, go out to lunch, have nails done. She cheats, so if you felt like she was winning, she wasn't. She cheated. My grandma Gert told her how to cheat. She cheated. Mom would call anybody up just because she wanted to talk, and she'd say, I heard there's a tornado coming. Are you near the tornado? If you are, you need to go right now and get bread, milk, and eggs. And if you didn't, call somebody, they'll bring it to you. She loved everybody that she met. She just made you friends, she made you family. Girls, I know that my friend Sue, since 11 years old, was family. Carrie, you were family. Anybody that knew her became her family. Nate, she was thrilled to death that you and Jesse were together, California, going to Israel, wherever you went. And Jennifer, you were her first. She called you the practice baby. And I think she did quite well. But she just was a true force of nature. And she would definitely just want to talk sometimes, and she didn't know how to start, so it was always, I heard, and then it would follow with whatever she heard. Jesse's right, 50 Shades of Grey. She said if you could get past, the naughty bits, it was a really good story. So that's how she would explain things. If, just get past the naughty bits, it's okay. It's okay. But I can't express, enough. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being there for her. And thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Judy. And the concluding speaker is going to be Bill.
Well, most of the speakers already took what I was going to say, but that's my mother. Just like they said, Carol was the rock who would support Mom while we were away. We couldn't be there for her, but we were there in spirit, and we will do anything we can to help Carol in this time of grief. We also thank you that you all came out far and near, and you've given us all of your support and your sorrow and your sympathy. Also, I want to tell you about my mother. It's hard to describe her by herself because I've always thought of Mom and Dad. But in the last year, we've had to get used to just being Mom. And I found out that my mother was a woman on her own, that she could be an individual, a strong individual by herself. She was her own person. She loved everybody, and she had a special gift about treating everybody as if they were her only child. When she was talking to you, she talked to you. There was nobody else in the world. You were it. And that was with anybody that she loved. Grandchild, great-grandchild, child, husband, friend. It didn't matter. She was your world. You were her world. It was one-on-one. She was always like that. And that is one thing I'll always remember about my mother. And that just about covers everything. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Bill. Listening to each of you speak, addressing diverse, some similar personality traits of hers, I'm reminded of a prayer that I'm going to read to you that speaks about a woman of strength, a woman of valor, a text from the book of Proverbs, so applicable to what we've just heard. A woman of valor who can find. She is more precious than fine pearls. Her family trusts in her, and so they lack nothing. She does them good, never harm, all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need. She is clothed in strength and dignity and faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her family rises up and they bless her. They sing her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you excel them all. We turn now to the two concluding prayers of our ceremony. The first is called El Malei Rachamim, speaking of God, the compassionate one, even in terms of sadness and sorrow. We turn to God for support. And the prayer immediately after that will be the mourner's Kaddish. It does not speak about sadness or mourning. In fact, it speaks about the joy of life that we have. I'm convinced this is a prayer for the survivors that we are. For us to appreciate what we have in every moment that we are blessed with, and a sense of remembering the past but also holding on to the future. I ask those who are comfortable to please stand for these two prayers. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamtzei V'nucha Nechuna, Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, V'malot Kedoshim V'toharim, K'zohar Rakia Mazvim, Nishmata Yishara, Shalcha L'olama, Began Eden Tehei Menuchata, Ana, Ba'al Harachamim, Hasti Reha B'Seter K'napecha L'olamim, Ustror B'Tzror Chaim Et Nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata, v'tanuach b'shalom amishkava v'nomar. Amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, for the soul of Norma Ehrlich, who has gone to her eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember, O worthy and righteous, these as she performed in the land of the living. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. The Lord is her portion. May she rest in the tranquility of shalom, of peace. And let us say, Amen. And now the Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba. Yomad divra kchirute v'yamlich malchute. V'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei lekol Beit Yisrael. V'agala uv'izman kari v'imaru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach. Ye'olam omei omayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei l'kudashah, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, ta'amiran v'alma v'yimaru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru. Oseh shalom v'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru. Amen. Please be seated. I've been instructed to invite everyone who is present. After this ceremony is concluded, and it is concluding now, to join with the family at Michelangelo's Italian restaurant nearby on Grace Road. I offer the concluding prayers of consolation. May the merciful God have comfort for you all among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. Let us all say Amen. Your presence and participation is certainly appreciated.
Give the head door. Go to the directions of Michelangelo and everybody's car in the parking lot. You ready, folks?
Are you don't know? You want to come with me?
Next one.